Okay, in this short video we're going to talk about double check valves and the spring brake, emergency brake, park brake system on a vehicle with air brakes. So we know we have a diamond shaped parking brake application valve here that's on the dash of the truck. So when that valve is pushed in, just like we discussed in previous videos, air pressure is applied to the spring brake chamber to release the parking brake so the truck can be moved or driven. Okay, so right now we have zero pressure on either side of the spring brake chamber. The plunger is out. You can see our orange tape here. Brakes are applied. If we push our hand valve in, now we have air pressure on the spring brake side. Our slack adjuster is pulled in because the push rod released the brakes. Now the vehicle will be ready to be driven, basically. Okay, so we talked about in the event air pressure coming down, that spring brake will come on and stop the vehicle. So somewhere in the truck air brake line system, we will have a double check valve for the park brake system, because if we had the air supply for our yellow knob here just tied into the front service air tank or the rear service air tank, then if we had a leak in either one of those systems, our spring brakes would come on and stop the truck and we'd be able to move it. So in order to be able to move the truck to a safe place and get it off the roadway where it wouldn't be involved in an accident in the event of an air loss, a double check valve is installed so that whichever tank has the higher air pressure between the front service and the rear service will feed the air to the park brake valve, so the brakes stay released until we're like completely out of air. So one of your task sheets wants us to check that double check system this week. So I'm going to run through real quick how we check that. Okay. We know that our valve is in because I pushed it. Our air is still applied to the spring brake chambers. So we have to build the air up on the truck, push this valve in, wheels chalked because now it can roll. And we're going to check that double check feature to make sure that the spring brake system is working properly. So I would shut the air off, which is a valve on this board, but it'll be the equivalent of shutting the engine off where our compressor is not turning to pump more air. This valve's pushed in, wheels are chalked on the truck. I'm going to go to whichever tank, doesn't matter which one I start with, but we're going to relieve all the rear air brake or primary tank pressure. Down to 20. Basically, we have no rear or primary air pressure in the tank anymore. Yet, our valve stayed pushed in. We still have our air pressure applied. So that means that half of the double check valve is working. So now we need to turn that drain valve, start the truck again. Now we can see our primary or rear service has air in it again. Now we're going to do just the opposite. Shut our truck off because our air's built up. We're going to come to our front service tank or secondary system. Same thing. Our knob did not pop out. Our brakes are still released. So the check valve is working. We'll get into different setups later, but that check valve is incorporated into this control valve here. Well, we verified both, because if one of those systems or either one had bled down to 0 when this happened, that would mean the check valve was bad, not doing its job. So that's what we're looking for when we check the double check valves for the spring or parking emergency brake system on the truck.